The skies over Houston turned from blue to gray as the massive ships entered Earth's atmosphere. They didn't arrive with explosions or dramatic messages like in the movies. They simply appeared, thousands of vessels of different shapes and sizes, belonging to many alien species. Commander Alan Wright stood on the roof of the North American Defense Coalition headquarters. His heart beat fast as he watched the ships through his binoculars. 17 years of military service hadn't prepared him for this moment. "Sir, we're getting communication requests from all of them," said Lieutenant Diane Morris, her voice shaking slightly as she held up the communication pad. 17 different species all asking for permission to land. Alan took a deep breath. "Tell them we need to establish peaceful contact protocols first." "They're saying it's urgent, sir. They're using the International Emergency Broadcast System." The first ships landed in open fields outside major cities across the world. Not just in America, but everywhere. China, Russia, Brazil, Egypt, Australia. Within hours, the news showed the same scenes playing out across the globe. Aliens didn't come out guns blazing. They came out with hands raised, those that had hands, showing they meant no harm. They came carrying data, maps, and terrible news. Dr. Olivia Bell rushed to the Houston landing site. As Earth's top expert in theoretical language patterns, she had spent her career preparing for this day. Now she found herself face to face with beings from beyond the stars, trying to understand their urgent messages. "The Universal Translator is picking up basic concepts," she told Alan as they stood before the first alien delegation. "They're refugees. They're running from something." The lead alien, a tall being with blue-tinted skin that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight, handed Olivia a device. When activated, it projected a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. A dark shadow was spreading across one arm of the spiral, consuming star systems one by one. "Void harbingers," the alien said, the translator converting its musical language into English. "They consume everything." Over the next 3 days, Olivia worked non-stop to improve communication. She slept only when her body forced her to, usually face down on her keyboard. The picture became clearer and more frightening with each passing hour. "They call themselves the Araxians," she explained during the emergency United Nations meeting. "The blue ones. The insect-like ones are the Hive Collective. The gaseous beings are Luminari. There are 14 other species. All of them were at war with each other until the Harbingers came." President William Harris looked grim. "And what exactly are these Harbingers?" Olivia pulled up the images the aliens had shared. "They exist partially outside normal space-time. The aliens described them as predators that consume entire solar systems. Not just the people, the planets, the stars, everything. 17 advanced civilizations have tried to fight them. All 17 failed and were forced to run." "How long do we have?" asked the Chinese representative. 8 months before they reach our solar system." The room fell silent. 8 months until the end of everything. Alan was put in charge of coordinating with the alien military leaders. He spent his days learning about weapons that had failed, shields that had been bypassed, and planets that no longer existed. "You must understand," said Ziktora, the Araxian military commander. "These beings cannot be fought. They are like a force of nature. They exist in many realities at once. Our weapons pass through them as if they are not there." "Has anyone tried?" "Nuclear weapons?" Alan asked. "We have weapons far beyond your nuclear capabilities," replied Nevlar of the Hive Collective. "They had no effect. The Harbingers simply shift partly out of our reality when attacked." "So what's your plan?" Alan asked, not hiding his frustration. "We run," said Ziktora simply. "We have been running for decades. We will help you build generation ships. We can save some of your people, perhaps 15%. The journey to the Andromeda Galaxy will take 300 years, but your children's children might find new homes there." The news hit the public hard. Panic spread in some places, resignation in others. Governments began the impossible task of deciding which 15% of humanity would be saved. But in labs and military bases across the world, some humans were asking different questions. Dr. Peter Kim, a quantum physicist from San Francisco, requested all the data the aliens had on the Harbingers. While others prepared for evacuation, he led a team looking for anything the aliens might have missed. "They're not gods," he insisted during late-night sessions with his team. "They follow some kind of rules. We just need to figure out what those rules are." 5 weeks after first contact, the Galactic Exodus Council met in Geneva. Representatives from all alien species and human governments gathered in a hastily converted soccer stadium. The aliens displayed holographic images showing the destruction of worlds, the consumption of suns. "We have begun construction of human-compatible generation ships," announced the luminary Elder Quan, his gaseous body glowing with soft light. "We estimate we can evacuate 500 million humans before the Harbingers arrive." The room was silent as Captain Jack Russell of the newly formed Earth Space Defense Force stood up. Unlike the political leaders around him, he wore a simple uniform with minimal decorations. "With all due respect to our galactic neighbors," he said, his voice firm, "humanity doesn't abandon our home without a fight, even if it seems hopeless." The alien representatives looked at each other in confusion. Ambassador Carol Martinez watched their reactions carefully. The very idea of standing against the Harbingers seemed completely foreign to them. "No species has ever survived an encounter with the Void Harbingers," explained Elder Quan. "Your weapons will be useless. Your defense is meaningless." Jack didn't back down. "Maybe, but we need to try." As the meeting ended, the aliens continued their preparations for departure. The first evacuation ships would leave in 3 weeks, carrying humans chosen by lottery to represent Earth's genetic diversity. But in a small lab beneath MIT, Dr. Peter Kim noticed something in the data that everyone else had missed. Something about the quantum signature of the Harbingers that might, just might, offer a sliver of hope. "Get me Commander Wright," he told his assistant as he stared at his computer screen. "Tell him I may have found something." While the alien ships began their evacuation preparations in Earth's orbit, humanity quietly began preparations of a different kind. Not to run, but to stand their ground. Because that's what humans do. 3 weeks passed since the first meeting of the Galactic Exodus Council. The alien ships hovered above major cities, their massive shadows a constant reminder of the coming danger. People looked up at the sky with mixed feelings: fear, wonder, and growing determination. In Geneva, Council leader Zik Tora addressed the second meeting of the Exodus Council. His blue skin reflected the light as he moved his long fingers over the holographic controls. The image of the galaxy appeared above the center of the room, with a dark shadow creeping toward Earth's position. "The Void Harbingers have increased their speed," he said, his translator converting his musical language into flat English. "We now estimate 7 months until they reach your solar system." Ambassador Carol Martinez watched the faces of the alien representatives. After weeks of working with them, she had learned to read some of their expressions despite their strange features. They were afraid. All 17 species with technology centuries beyond Earth's were terrified. "What about the evacuation schedule?" asked President Harris. Nevler of the Hive Collective stepped forward, her insect-like mandibles clicking as she spoke. "The first ships will depart next week. We have room for 50,000 humans on each vessel. The lottery selection is proceeding as planned." Carol noticed how the aliens always talked about running, never about fighting. It bothered her more each day. After the meeting, she found Commander Alan Wright studying the alien data on a tablet. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. "Any progress?" she asked. Alan shook his head. "Their technology is amazing, but they've given up. They've been running so long they can't think of anything else." "What about Dr. Kim? I heard he found something." "He thinks he did. He's requested a meeting with the alien scientists tomorrow." The next day, Dr. Peter Kim stood before a group of the most advanced scientific minds in the galaxy. Despite their strange appearances, they were all scientists at heart. Kim hoped this common ground would help. "I've been studying your data on the Harbingers," Kim began, pointing to his display screen, specifically their quantum signature. The aliens looked at each other with their various eyes, tentacles, and sensory organs. Elder Quan of the Luminari floated forward, his gaseous body glowing with gentle blue light. We have studied the harbingers for decades, Quan said. There is no weakness to exploit. Kim nodded respectfully. I understand, but I noticed something in their quantum readings. The harbingers exist in a state of quantum superposition. They're in multiple states of reality at once. Yes, agreed, a scientist from the crystalline Trell species. That is why weapons pass through them. They simply shift to another quantum state. Exactly, said Kim, growing excited. But what if we could force them to remain in a single quantum state? What if we could lock them into our reality? The alien scientists fell silent. This was a new idea. Lieutenant Susan Garcia stepped forward. Before joining the Earth Defense Force, she had been a particle physicist at CERN. We've been developing quantum field technology on Earth, she explained. It's primitive compared to your tech, but the principle is sound. We think we could create a field that would force the harbingers to exist in only one quantum state, our state, making them vulnerable to conventional weapons, Alan added. The alien scientists began talking all at once, their translators struggling to keep up. Some seemed excited, others skeptical. But for the first time, they were considering the possibility of fighting back. Trellna, the crystalline scientist, approached Kim. Your theory has merit, but the power requirements would be enormous. You would need to generate a quantum field around your entire solar system. Then that's what we'll do, said Kim simply. Word of the plan spread quickly. While the alien evacuation continued, a new energy filled the air on Earth. People who had resigned themselves to the lottery now had a reason to hope. Factories that had been producing supplies for the evacuation ships switched to building components. For the quantum field generators, Admiral Nicole Foster was put in charge of the global defense effort. A veteran of 3 wars, she brought a no-nonsense approach to the massive project. We need every factory, every scientist, every resource, she told the United Nations Security Council. This is humanity's last stand. We do this together, or we don't do it at all. Former enemy nations now worked side by side. Chinese engineers worked with American scientists. Russian cosmonauts trained alongside NATO pilots. The quantum field generators would be positioned throughout the solar system, creating a web that would force the harbingers into a single state of reality. The aliens watched these preparations with confusion. Ambassador Eric Peterson found himself constantly explaining humanity's position. I don't understand, said Jivix, a gelatinous diplomat from the Morphid Collective. The chances of success are minimal. Why not save those you can? Eric looked out at the construction yards where the massive generators were being built. Because this is our home, and because someone has to take a stand. 4 months passed. Half the alien refugee fleet had already departed, carrying with them the first groups of humans chosen by lottery. The rest of humanity worked tirelessly on the quantum field project. Dr. Kim and Lieutenant Garcia had made breakthrough after breakthrough, working alongside the few alien scientists who had chosen to stay and help. The first quantum field generators were already being positioned near Pluto, the farthest point of defense. During a rare moment of rest, Alan found Carol staring at the night sky from the roof of the Geneva headquarters. Penny, for your thoughts? He asked. She smiled tiredly. I was just thinking about how strange this all is. A few months ago, we didn't even know aliens existed. Now we're working with them to save our planet. Some of them anyway, Alan said. Most are still running. Can you blame them? They've seen what the harbingers can do. Alan shook his head. No, I don't blame them. But I'm proud of us for staying. Whatever happens, we're facing it head on. A flash of light streaked across the sky as another group of refugee ships left Earth's orbit, heading for the safety of deep space. But below them, on the blue planet, lights burned in laboratories and factories around the clock as humanity prepared for the fight of their lives. The countdown stood at 3 months until the harbingers would arrive. 3 months to complete. A defense system unlike anything ever attempted. 3 months to prove that sometimes standing your ground was the only choice that mattered. With 5 months left before the harbingers would reach Earth, humanity worked around the clock. Cities never slept. Factory lights burned through the night. Space launches happened daily as parts for the quantum field generators were sent into Orbit and beyond, Dr. Peter Kim hadn't slept properly in weeks. His office at the Global Defense Headquarters in Geneva was filled with empty coffee cups and half-eaten sandwiches. Equations covered every whiteboard and computer screen. "You need to rest," said Lieutenant Susan Garcia as she entered with fresh coffee. Her own eyes had dark circles beneath them. Peter shook his head. "The simulations keep failing. We're missing something." Susan set down the coffee and looked at his calculations. "The field strength drops too much between the generators. We need more power." "We don't have more power," Peter said. "We're already using every nuclear reactor on the planet." As they talked, Admiral Nicole Foster entered the room. Despite the pressure, she maintained a calm presence that steadied those around her. "I have news," she said. "The aliens from the Luminari have offered to help." Peter looked up in surprise. "I thought most of them left already." "Most did, but Elder Quan and 5 other Luminari stayed behind. They say their bodies naturally generate the kind of energy we need. This was the breakthrough they needed. The Luminari were beings of pure energy, their gaseous bodies glowing with internal light. With their help, the quantum field generators could work." Over the next few days, Peter and Susan worked closely with Elder Quan. The ancient alien's body pulsed with blue-white light as he demonstrated how the Luminari could power the quantum field. "Our bodies exist partially in the energy dimension," Quan explained. "We can channel power in ways your technology cannot." Susan's eyes widened as she saw the readings. This could actually work. Meanwhile, around the solar system, the defense grid took shape. Large metal platforms were positioned in space, starting from Pluto and working inward. Each platform held a quantum field generator, designed to create a mesh of energy that would force the Harbingers into a single quantum state. Commander Alan Wright oversaw the military preparations from the lunar base. Earth's combined military forces had united under a single banner for the first time in history. Every weapon, from simple bullets to nuclear missiles, had been modified according to Peter's theories to affect the Harbingers once they were locked in our reality. "Will it be enough?" asked Carol Martinez during a video call from Earth. Alan looked at the tactical displays showing their defenses. "Honestly, I don't know, but it's a better plan than running." On Earth, people tried to maintain normal lives, despite the constant reminder of danger. Schools remained open, farmers planted crops, babies were born. Life continued in the shadow of potential extinction. More alien ships departed each week. The evacuation continued for those chosen by lottery. Some humans refused their spots, choosing to remain on Earth and fight. Others left with heavy hearts, carrying Earth's legacy with them to the stars. Ambassador Eric Peterson worked to maintain good relations with the aliens who stayed. A small group from each species had chosen to remain, either to help or simply to witness humanity's stand. "Your people continue to surprise me," said Zivix, the gelatinous morphid diplomat. "You build and prepare as if victory is certain." Eric watched a group of children playing in a park near the embassy. "It's not about certainty. It's about trying. About not giving up without a fight." 3 months before the expected arrival of the Harbingers, the first test of the quantum field was conducted near Pluto. Scientists and military personnel gathered in control rooms across Earth to watch. "Initiating test sequence," announced Susan from the main control center in Geneva. The quantum field generator on Pluto's moon Charon hummed to life. Energy readings spiked as the field expanded. For a moment, it seemed to work. Then alarms blared. The generator overheated and shut down. "What happened?" demanded Admiral Foster. Peter reviewed the data quickly. "The field is unstable. It collapses too quickly." It was a major setback. The team worked frantically to solve the problem. Days passed without a solution. Despair began to creep in. Then, 2 weeks after the failed test, Trelna, the crystalline alien scientist, approached Peter with an idea. "Your quantum field is based on Earth physics," the alien said, its crystal body reflecting light in rainbow patterns. "But the Harbingers exist beyond standard physics. We must adapt." Trell-Na had been studying the Harbinger data from a different angle. As a crystalline being, the alien perceived energy patterns differently. The field must pulse at this frequency, Trell-Na explained, showing a complex waveform. Like music, not a steady tone. Peter studied the pattern. This could work. We need to modify all the generators. The race began to update the entire defense grid. Engineers worked in spacesuits making adjustments to each platform. On Earth, factories rushed to produce new components. Time was running out. The latest observations showed the Harbingers had accelerated again. They would reach the outer solar system in just 2 months. As the deadline approached, the few remaining alien ships prepared for departure. This would be the last chance to evacuate before the Harbingers arrived. Final boarding call for evacuation vessel Starlight, announced the speakers at the Geneva spaceport. Last departure to Andromeda staging area. Families said tearful goodbyes, as some left while others stayed. Children clung to parents. Friends embraced for what might be the last time. Elder Quan approached Admiral Foster at the spaceport. The luminary's body glowed softly in the evening light. "You may still join us," the alien said. "You especially would be valuable to preserve human knowledge." Foster shook her head. "My place is here, with my people." Quan's light pulsed in what Foster had come to recognize as respect. "Then I too shall remain. My energy may help your generators." By one, a representative from each alien species approached. The Araxian commander Ziktora, the hive scientist Nevlar, the morphid diplomat Zivix, the crystalline Trell-Na. Each announced their decision to stay. "We came as refugees," said Ziktora, "but perhaps we can be allies instead." As the final evacuation ship departed, a strange feeling spread across Earth. Not confidence exactly, but determination. Humanity had chosen to stand its ground, and now they would not stand alone. In the control room, Peter and Susan made final adjustments to the quantum field design. The modified generators were being tested one by one, each more successful than the last. 2 months, Susan said quietly. 2 months to save everything. Peter nodded, his tired face showing new resolve. Then we better not waste a single day. The final evacuation ship disappeared into the darkness of space, a bright point of light that grew smaller until it vanished among the stars. Earth now stood alone, with only a handful of alien allies who had chosen to stay. With just 2 weeks remaining before the Harbingers would reach the solar system, the modified quantum field generators were in place. The defense grid stretched from beyond Pluto to Earth's orbit, a network of platforms ready to create the field that might save humanity. Commander Alan Wright stood on the observation deck of the lunar base, looking out at Earth. The blue planet seemed so peaceful from here, showing no signs of the frantic preparations happening on its surface. "Final system check is complete," reported Captain Ben Howard, his tablet showing green status indicators across the board. "All generators are operational." Alan nodded. "And the weapon systems?" "Armed and ready. Every satellite, space station, and platform has been equipped according to Dr. Kim's specifications. It had been a monumental effort. Countries that had been enemies for generations now worked together, their weapons pointed outward at a common threat rather than at each other. On Earth, Admiral Nicole Foster addressed the United Defense Council. Representatives from every nation listened as she outlined the final preparations. "The quantum field will need to be activated at precisely the right moment," she explained. "Too early, and the Harbingers might detect it and change course. Too late, and they'll already be inside our defenses." President Harris looked grave. "And our chances of success?" Foster hesitated. "Dr. Kim estimates between 20 and 30%, sir. But those are better odds than we had 3 months ago." In the science division, Peter Kim and Susan Garcia worked with Trell-Na to finalize the activation sequence. The crystalline alien's insights had been crucial to solving the field stability problems. "The field must pulse at exactly this frequency," Trell-Na explained. pointing to a complex waveform on the screen. Any deviation will cause it to collapse. Susan programmed the sequence into the main control system. If this works, it will force the harbingers into our reality, make them solid. And vulnerable, added Peter. Across Earth, people prepared in different ways. Some held prayer services, others hosted parties. Many simply spent time with loved ones, appreciating each moment together. Dr. Olivia Bell continued her work with the alien representatives, learning all she could about their cultures and technologies. If humanity survived, this knowledge would be precious. I still don't understand why they come, she said to Elder Quan during a late-night study session. What do the harbingers want? Why consume entire solar systems? The luminary's body pulsed, with soft light as he considered. We do not know. Communication has been impossible. They may not even be conscious as we understand it. They simply are, and they consume. 1 week before the expected arrival, the first signs appeared. Strange readings from the deep space monitoring stations, distortions in the fabric of spacetime near Pluto. They're coming, Alan informed Admiral Foster during their daily briefing. The outer sensors are picking up quantum fluctuations consistent with harbinger activity. Foster alerted the Global Defense Network. All stations to yellow alert. This is not a drill. The news spread quickly. After months of preparation, the moment was almost here. The enemy that had forced 17 advanced civilizations to flee their homes was approaching Earth. Captain Kevin Adams commanded the forward defense station near Neptune. His crew monitored the sensors constantly, watching for the first visual, confirmation of the harbingers. Contact, shouted Lieutenant Samantha Lee from the sensor station. I have visual contact. The main screen showed a strange distortion in space. It wasn't quite a ship or a creature. It looked like a tear in reality itself, a place where the normal rules of physics didn't apply. Within the tear, shadowy shapes moved in ways that hurt the eyes to look at. Send the images to Earth, ordered Kevin, and power up the quantum generator. Standby mode only. The images reached Geneva within minutes. The command center fell silent as people saw the harbingers for the first time. The aliens who had remained on Earth recognized them immediately. They are here, said Ziktora, the blue-skinned Araxian commander. Just as they came to our world. The shadowy forms moved slowly through the outer solar system, passing Pluto without stopping. More tiers in reality appeared behind the first. Dozens of them, then hundreds. Each contained the same shifting, impossible shapes. They're ignoring Pluto, observed Susan. Moving straight toward the inner system. Toward the sun, said Peter. They consume stars first, then planets. The next few days passed in tense waiting. The harbingers moved steadily inward, passing Neptune, then Uranus. They didn't rush. They moved with the certainty of predators who knew their prey couldn't escape. Admiral Foster kept in constant contact with the defense stations. Hold your positions. Do not activate the quantum field until my command. On the forward station, Kevin and his crew watched the harbingers approach. The bizarre distortions were now clearly visible without sensors. They're beautiful in a terrifying way, whispered Samantha. The tiers in reality shimmered with strange colors that shouldn't exist, like windows into another dimension. Kevin nodded grimly. Most deadly things are. As the harbingers reached Saturn's orbit, Admiral Foster called a final meeting with the alien representatives. You've all seen these things before, she said. Is there anything else we should know? Any last advice? Nevler of the Hive Collective clicked her mandibles nervously. They do not show mercy. They do not negotiate. They simply consume. They may react when we activate the field, added Ziktora. Be prepared for anything. Foster looked at each alien face around the table. Thank you for staying, for helping us fight instead of run. Perhaps that is why we remained, said Elder Quan, his luminous body glowing softly. To learn from your example. The harbingers passed Jupiter's orbit 3 days later. Earth had less than 24 hours before they would reach Mars, the final threshold before Earth itself. In homes across the planet, Families gathered around televisions and computer screens. The news showed the Harbinger's approach, now visible as strange dark shapes against the backdrop of space. Children asked parents difficult questions. Will we be okay? Are the monsters coming here? Parents gave the most honest answers they could while trying to ease fears. In the Geneva Command Center, Peter and Susan made final adjustments to the quantum field activation sequence. Once we start, we'll have approximately 30 seconds to lock them in our reality, Peter explained to Admiral Foster. Then the weapons need to fire immediately. Foster nodded. All defense stations are ready. The moment the field stabilizes, they'll open fire. On the observation deck of the lunar base, Alan watched as the Earth rotated slowly below. From this distance, national borders vanished. It was just one world, one home for all humanity. His communication panel beeped. Commander, the Harbingers have reached Mars orbit. They'll be in optimum field range in 6 hours. Alan took a deep breath. Understood. Inform all stations. This is it. Across the solar system, humanity prepared for its last stand. Not running, not hiding, but facing the threat head-on. As the hours counted down, a strange calm settled over Earth. They had done everything possible to prepare. Now it was time to see if it would be enough. The Harbingers crossed Mars orbit at exactly 0600 hours Earth time. Their strange, shifting forms moved with purpose toward the inner solar system, toward Earth, toward the Sun. In the Geneva Command Center, Admiral Nicole Foster stood before the main display screen. The room was packed with military leaders, scientists, and the alien representatives who had stayed to help. They'll reach the optimal field range in 15 minutes, reported Susan Garcia, her fingers flying over her control panel. All quantum generators are at full power and ready. Peter Kim worked beside her, making final calculations. The Luminari energy feed is stable. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Foster turned to face the room. This is it. The moment we've been preparing for. I won't make a long speech. We all know what's at stake. President Harris stepped forward. On behalf of all humanity, I want to thank everyone who has worked to give us this chance. Whatever happens next, we can be proud that we stood our ground. Across the solar system, defense stations stood ready. Weapons were armed, crews at battle stations. On the forward defense platform near Mars, Captain Kevin Adams watched the Harbingers approach. They're beautiful in a way, said Lieutenant Samantha Lee softly. Like looking into another dimension. Kevin nodded. The tears in reality shimmered, with impossible colors. Inside them, the dark shapes moved in ways that hurt human eyes to follow. They didn't seem evil, just utterly alien, beyond understanding. 2 minutes to optimal range, announced Samantha. Kevin opened the communication channel to all defense platforms. This is Captain Adams. Stand by for quantum field activation on Admiral Foster's command. On the lunar base, Commander Alan Wright monitored the positions of all defense stations. Every platform was in place, forming a web around the approaching Harbingers. Field generators all report ready, he told Foster over the video link. Weapon systems standing by. Foster looked at the timer. 1 minute remaining. She thought of all the alien species who had fled, convinced that fighting was hopeless. She thought of the few who had stayed, inspired by humanity's refusal to give up. 30 seconds, called Susan. Everyone in the command center held their breath. This was humanity's one chance. If the quantum field failed, Earth would be consumed, just like all the other worlds before it. Harbingers now entering optimal field range, reported Peter. Foster took a deep breath. Activate the quantum field. Now. Susan pressed the command key. Initiating quantum field in 3, 2, 1. Field active. Across the solar system, the generators hummed to life. Energy surged through the network, creating a mesh of quantum-locked spacetime. On the main display, the field appeared as a blue web surrounding the red dots that represented the Harbingers. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Harbingers continued their steady approach. Then the sensors began picking up changes. The field is affecting them, exclaimed Peter, pointing to the readings. their quantum signatures stabilizing. On the forward platform, Kevin and his crew watched in amazement as the harbingers began to change. The tiers in reality were closing. The shifting, impossible, forms inside were solidifying into definite shapes. What emerged looked like giant crystalline structures, complex geometric forms that glittered in the sunlight. "They're becoming solid," Samantha whispered. "It's working." The harbingers, now forced into a single quantum state, seemed to hesitate. For the first time in their existence, they were locked into one reality, unable to shift between dimensions. "Field stability at 85% and holding," reported Susan. Foster didn't hesitate. "All defense stations open fire! Now!" Throughout the solar system, humanity's weapons fired as one. Missiles streaked toward the crystalline forms. Laser batteries discharged. Railguns launched projectiles at incredible speeds. The first impacts were staggering. The harbingers, previously untouchable, shattered under the barrage. Crystal fragments exploded outward as the once invincible beings experienced physical damage for the first time. "It's working!" shouted Alan from the lunar base. "They're vulnerable." The harbingers reacted. The largest crystalline structure emitted a pulse of energy that caused sensors to overload temporarily. When they came back online, the remaining harbingers were moving, trying to regroup. "They're attempting to adapt," warned Trelna, the crystalline alien scientist. "Keep firing." The battle was fierce. Some harbingers managed to emit energy beams that destroyed several defense platforms. Others tried to flee, only to find themselves still trapped in the quantum field. "Field stability dropping to 70%, warned Susan. "The Luminary are struggling to maintain power levels." Elder Kwan's body glowed brighter than ever as he channeled energy into the field generators. "We cannot maintain this indefinitely. You must finish them quickly." Foster ordered all remaining weapons to target the largest harbinger structures. "Concentrate fire on the biggest ones first." The space between Mars and Earth lit up with weapons fire. The crystalline harbingers fractured and broke apart under the onslaught. Each successful hit seemed to confuse the others, as if they were sharing a collective consciousness that had never experienced pain before. "Field stability at 55%, reported Susan. "We're losing it." Peter worked frantically to reroute power. "Just a little longer." On the forward platform, Kevin watched as the largest harbinger began to crack under concentrated fire. Its complex crystal structure fractured along multiple lines until finally, it shattered completely. The effect on the others was immediate. The remaining harbingers stopped their attack. Their crystalline forms dimmed, as if losing power. "Keep firing," ordered Foster. "Don't let up." One by one, the harbingers broke apart under humanity's weapons. What had once been untouchable terrors were reduced to drifting crystal fragments. "Field stability at 30%, warned Susan. "It's going to collapse soon." But by then it didn't matter. The last harbinger shattered just as the quantum field began to fail. The fragments drifted lifelessly in space, no longer shifting between realities, no longer a threat. The command center erupted in cheers. People hugged each other, laughed, cried. The alien representatives looked on in amazement. "You did it," said Zektora, the Araxian commander, his voice filled with wonder. "You actually defeated them." Foster smiled tiredly. "We did it. Together." In homes across Earth, people watched as news of the victory spread. Streets filled with celebrating crowds. Churches, temples, and mosques held services of thanksgiving. Over the next few days, the full scope of their achievement became clear. Humanity had done what 17 advanced civilizations couldn't. They had stood their ground and won. Admiral Foster sent a subspace message to the fleeing refugee ships. "Harbingers defeated. Earth stands secure. You are welcome to return, Ite." Would take years for the message to reach all the scattered refugee fleets. But a new chapter in galactic history had begun. 1 month after the battle, representatives from Earth met with the aliens who had stayed to help. The meeting took place in the same Geneva Stadium where the Exodus Council had first gathered. "We propose a new alliance," said President Harris. "Not based on running, but on standing together. on facing challenges rather than fleeing them. The aliens agreed readily. Earth would become the center of a new galactic community, one built on courage and cooperation rather than fear. As Admiral Foster looked out at the gathered humans and aliens, she thought about how close they had come to extinction. How easy it would have been to run. Today we learned something about ourselves, she told the assembly. When faced with impossible odds, humanity doesn't run. We stand our ground, we fight. And sometimes, against all logic and reason, we win. The words would be remembered for generations to come, carved into monuments, taught in schools across the galaxy, a testament to the species that stood its ground when all others fled.